Apple and Foxconn was not true. I mean, honestly, like, I just wondered, like, are people never gonna trust us again? Like, like, in a way, I wasn't so mad at him. I just felt like, oh, we really did a bad job. Like, we just did a really bad job. That was a real...
That just sounded really sad.
Well, when you, like, imagine the worst thing you could do at your job, except 2.5 million people are witness to it. And also, that episode of the show was such a visible episode of the show. It was one of the most popular things we've ever put on the radio. And what's such a shame is that he could have told that story without making up any of it. Though there are certain things that he contends, and the big one is that there's child labor, in those plants, where it doesn't seem like anybody believes it. So some of the things, that's the one big thing that he says that isn't true. What did it mean for me? Like, honestly, like, I was just hoping to get through the week without us losing our entire listenership. I feel like everything we did from that point was trying to be straight with people about where we messed up and get to the bottom of it and explain to people. Like we trusted him on things that we should not have trusted him on. You know, like when he said that we couldn't, when we asked to talk to the translator who he met in China, he just said, well, I have this phone number, but it doesn't go through anymore. We're just like, all right, well, I guess that's a person in China, we can't reach her, that's that. And they're trying to change her name too, so even if we tried to track down her name, we wouldn't even know to find her, but we should have not run the story, and you know, it's not his job to tell us the truth. I mean, what did I feel? I felt, like, honestly, like when you're doing something for so many years, to get into a situation that's so different, what I felt like was everything could just go away. You know, the show felt so solid, I just felt like the whole radio show could just go away. That would be the most famous thing that any of us ever did. And so, what's that, sir? You didn't feel that way at all? He's saying he felt like I came out with this heartfelt reaction. You think it was necessary? Well, that's very nice. I mean, I can tell you, we had always been pretty aggressive about fact checking, but since that show, we have paid fact checkers who no, I mean, we added to our budget and we added professional fact checking, and so everything is much more meticulously and aggressively fact checked, because I don't, like, it just shouldn't be, like, it just shouldn't be. Like, I feel like people trust us that the stories are true. And then there's a whole thing that we haven't figured out what to do with. You guys could help me vote on this by voting, and that's what to do with David Sedaris' stories, which I always assumed, like, he's a big liar, like, it's obvious from here. And if you ask him, he doesn't say, like, the stories are true. He's like, well, no, those stories, he says they're true enough for you. You know, he says, like, no, they contain exaggerations to be funny. I'm a funny writer. And so we can't tell, should we, you guys can vote for me, just assume that people are adult enough to figure it out. That had been our policy at the time. And this is one, I honestly, we could figure out how to do it, where we would label it somehow, but then every way that we came up with it was just like, we just want to warn you, like, this story, you know, like how sometimes say, like this might not be suitable for children, or this story mentions the existence of sex. Yeah, and we, you know, we would have some sort of warning of, like, this story may contain non-factual information. I think it just sort of takes the fun out of it somehow. Or, does anybody want that? Say it's by David Sedaris. And then the third thing is that we can just fact check it. And it's just that everything's true. Do you want that? No. You can tell that it's not necessarily all true. I produced the commentaries for All Things Considered when I was a staff person at NPR, and a couple months after I left, there was a huge controversy among the commentators because Bailey White, who was a commentator back at the time, she wrote a commentary down in the South about how in the commentary somebody drives a car up into a porch. And the next morning in the All Things Considered morning meeting, Robert Siegel, the host of All Things Considered, asked Margaret Lois Smith, who was producing the commentaries at the time, he's like, you know, that story that Bailey just told on the radio last night about the car up on the porch? Is that true? You know, in the strict sense of like a car drove up on the porch. And Margaret said it never even occurred to me to ask. I just assumed that she's a big liar. Like, I assume it's obvious she's a liar. She's just telling these funny stories to be funny. And then they made all the commentators, like, declare, are your stories true or not? In a kind of internal investigation as they tried to figure out what to do. And I remember they went to Daniel Pinkwater, who's still in NPR sometimes, the children's book writer, he's a very wonderful, funny man. And they said, are these stories true that you tell on the radio? And he said, the stories that I tell on the radio are more truthful than the stories that they depict. But I feel like a broadcast like ours or like that, like it's obvious, like you're supposed to take, like that guy's your crazy uncle, like David Sedaris is your funny friend, you know what I mean? He's a multimillionaire. You know, a multimillionaire friend, the funniest person on planet Earth. You know, like he's you know to take that differently than when we have like a reporter come on or when Daniel Shore would give the commentaries. Anyway, one more question, you standing up.